Hello, hello. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the CAT Scan Guru podcast. So glad to be doing podcast episodes again. I know sometimes when it comes to being a content creator, being a podcaster, anything, a YouTuber, sometimes the burnout factor is real. And sometimes we do need to take a pause and just kind of, get out of the social media space and just so we can come back fresh and just passionate about what we do. And sometimes these breaks are needed. Me, for example, I am a mom to special needs kids and, with running a business and just doing all the things in my life, it is a lot. And sometimes we just have to take a little step back because the burnout factor is real, like I said. So really strange weather going on in the state of Illinois. Like today, it's like 60 degrees and it's February. And usually it's snowing and cold here in the state, usually in February. I am not a Midwest person by any chance because I grew up in the West Coast. And one of these days, I hope to get back to the West Coast because this is just not my jam. So let's do a little housekeeping before we get into today's episode. So if you guys haven't been following me on TikTok, I strongly recommend that you follow me on TikTok, because I have announced that I have finally released the Core CT Protocols Guide. So this is a survival guide for you new CT technologists, or even if you're new to traveling, because I know lots of techs, they get their 1 to 2 years experience and they go out there and travel. So this is for you as well. Now, disclaimer, this is merely a reference. It is not to replace your site's protocol, radiologist recommendations, or anything of that sort. This is something that you can use as a reference to help you within your CT training and to make you be the best technologist you can. So I have been working on this for months, making sure that I give you just the nitty gritty. Didn't want to make it very complicated. I know some of my mutuals on TikTok did not know that I had released this, and they were like, where did I miss this? So I did do a video about that, responding to one of my mutuals' comments, and she's awesome in the space too. So if you are interested in this guide, which I know once I released it last week, 20 people bought, like just right out of the gate. And so I have transitioned to a print on demand because the demand is getting higher. And I cannot spend a lot of time trying to make these guides because it takes a lot of time and, as far as being a mom and things like that. So I have streamlined all that. So if you are interested in the guide, so there's 2 ways that you can get this. You can get a physical copy of the guide or you can get a digital version. Either one that you choose, you will also get 2 courses that I go ahead and teach. So one course is a common CT exams and protocols, and the second one is a course designed to talk about all about contrast media. Along with that, you will also get a 10-episode bonus audio series. It's the CT Tech Cheat Code, where you can dominate your training. I drop 10 episodes on some things that you can dominate your training with. So you will get all 3 of those things inside a private school community. Okay. So once you purchase it, you'll get the link to join the community and start, learning something as far as protocols, exams, and contrast media and how to dominate your training. So it's all on-demand courses. There's an app for the schoolroom so you can take it on the go and listen. And whichever one you choose, so if you choose the digital version, it's $44.99. If you choose the physical copy of the guide along with the courses and everything, it is $54.99. If you're interested in that, the link is in the show notes and you can go ahead and get your learn on with CT. So super excited about this. It took me a while to kind of get this all together so I can release it so it would be available to everybody. Felt that there was a need in it. And when there's a need, I tend to go ahead and say, okay, what did I need as a technologist 20 years ago that, the younger generation can use now? So far, this has been a very, very good thing. And I hope that everybody learns something from it. Also, I am putting up more educational videos on the YouTube channel. So make sure you guys check that out as well. I will be doing like breakdowns of every CT protocol on my YouTube channel. So that has been one of the things that has been requested, along with like registry review study material. So those things are going to be going up on the YouTube channel as well. So make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast. I can't tell you how thankful I am for you guys continuing to listen, and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also follow along on TikTok because I post a lot of good TikTok content, and make sure that you follow on Instagram. I'm starting to kind of revamp Instagram a little bit just so I don't burn out on that as well. So everything will be in the show notes. Make sure you guys check that out. So in today's episode, we are going to be talking about CT isn't hard. It's just taught incorrectly. So what I'm going to be discussing is why CT feels overwhelming when it doesn't really need to be. Now, we all know as technologists that CT is a very complex modality. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a shit ton of protocols. There is a lot going on when it comes to CT, and it's very, very complex. It's very complicated sometimes when it really doesn't need to be. Okay. The problem is that we overemphasize a lot of memorization. Okay. And we fail to give these technologists that are coming in transitioning, especially a lot from X-ray or from CT programs, or even a traveler that has never been to your site, that we just overemphasize just memorizing everything with zero structure. Okay. And we're not really showing technologists how exams are done, and not having them sit down behind the console, behind the computer, and teaching them, okay, you're supposed to do X, Y, and Z. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do that. We're not really honing in on that structure. And I think that's why a lot of technologists feel behind, or they feel they weren't trained adequately. So another problem that we have is information overload. Like I just explained, we have a ton of protocols. There is so much to remember. Do you think in your right mind that your brain can remember every single protocol that exists out there? Because there's so many protocols getting added, so many exams that are new that are getting added, that radiologists are saying, well, I went to this we should be doing this. So there is a huge thing when it comes to overloading in information where your brain cannot remember everything. Scans that are inconsistent. So what I mean by inconsistent is it's the wrong exam for whatever clinical diagnosis it is. It is clipping anatomy. Field of view is off. Patient centering is off. So things of that nature where scans are being inconsistently done, or you're not scanning the appropriate body part. You're thinking, you know, well, it's supposed to be this, but it should be this, and not really clarifying or asking the questions, is this really what we need to be doing? Okay. And then my all-time favorite, because I drill this into your brain, and I talk about this in almost every TikTok video that I put out there, is isocentering. Listen, we have to get it right when it comes to isocentering. That's why laser lights on a CT scanner exist, because I see a lot of crappy isocentering that you're just thinking you know where you're isocentering and you're not doing it properly. I did an excellent TikTok video on patient centering, which I will go ahead and link in the show notes, about how, and I give you a visual diagram of why patient centering is crucial and why your scouts need to be properly centered. Because radiation dose is a factor, and then making sure that all the anatomy that you need is in that field of view. Because if you just scout and say, fuck it, this is just what I'm going to do, and things lie outside of the scout, if you really think that the scanner is going to allow you to scan that, it's out of the field of view. Okay. Which I probably will do a video about display field of view and scan field of view, because they're two different things. So that's why isocentering is important. And there seems to be a huge problem with that, where we're not teaching that properly. Okay. And then feeling like you're slow, or you're unsure of yourself, or that you're not going to catch up to everybody. Listen, I've said this in a previous podcast episode, is that it doesn't matter your pace. Okay. What matters is that you do the exam correctly. Okay. And a lot of people's learning curves are different than others. Some people pick up the modality faster. Some need more time. You have to operate at your own pace, and you have to feel confident that listen, I may not be too familiar with this exam, but I'm going to perfect it and I'm going to keep, making sure that I do it correctly, making sure you get those reps in. That's what we call it, or making sure that you practice, because that is the big thing. Repetition and practice makes you more of a experienced tech and you know what you're doing. Okay. Now, with all these pain points that I just explained, so what is the result of this? Well, you get burnout, you panic, you get overwhelmed instead of feeling like you're learning. No, you feel behind, you feel short, and you're not grasping the concept of why we do certain exams the way we do, or why this volume and contrast is given, or why we have to inject at this flow rate. That's what happens when we are not teaching the younger generation and the incoming technologists that want to learn the proper way. Okay. We have to go back to the basics. CT training is very important. So the key takeaways is that we need to have structure in our training program. Sometimes I wish we could go back to those hospital-based training programs because those seem to have worked. But of course, because they're now branched out and there's CT programs in colleges, I think when they do their clinical rotation, I don't think it's enough. And that's just my own personal perspective. I think there needs to be more, because when you are set and you're working in the hospital area, in a clinical area, you have to have some kind of structure to your training program. Have a checklist, have some kind of sign off where they say, okay, you learn X, Y, and Z. I don't think 6 weeks of training is enough. I think between 8 to 12 weeks is sufficient to know your core exams, know exactly how to scan them, because we do have core exams that get ordered like water. And we scan these common exams and these core exams every single freaking day. It's usually your head without, your PE study, and an abdomen pelvis with, whether it's a CTA or regardless. That's why I incorporated this CT reference guide with core protocols to kind of, educate you on what are some of the things that you will see while you're training. I think we have to go back to just the basics and making sure that our technologists know the basics of the core exams, because those are the bread and butter, and that's where you need to start. What you need to do as a technologist is stop guessing. Use proper structure. When I mean proper structure, proper centering. Use your laser light. Making sure you set up that scout correctly. Make sure you have all the, necessary anatomy in that field of view. So using proper structure. And then making sure that, okay, this is why I'm doing this, and take notes. Notes are very important. I can tell you, in my office here where I'm recording my podcast, there are CT books sitting right here. There's an entire tub of radiology books, CT notes, notebooks that I acquired over the years. I have it all, because sometimes I do have to refer back to them and say, okay, well, I know I remember this and X, Y, and Z. Let me look this up, because my brain can't keep everything and I just can't remember everything. And plus, I'm over 45, so you can't expect me to remember. But stop guessing. If you don't know, ask a question, okay? Ask a question. Make sure that, hey, this is what I don't understand, so that the technologist who's training you, educating you, they know how to go ahead and answer your question. If they don't, they can get somebody else who will, okay? So that's why I've created this guide. Make sure you check out the show notes for this guide, because it'll guide you in the CT protocols that are core, that you need to know as a new technologist, because it is the basics, and we need to have more structure in our training programs. So that is it for today's episode. So make sure you check out and grab the guide, whether it's digital or a physical copy, along with those courses and that audio series. Everything is in the show notes. Make sure you follow me on TikTok for all your protocol needs, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you like, share, comment, share this podcast episode or even the show with somebody that needs to hear it. So thank you so much for joining me on this podcast episode, and I will chat with you in the next episode.